Well, I grew up in a pretty typical Christian home. I had two older brothers. Did the whole going to church every Sunday, knew the Bible verses, the Bible stories, could answer pretty much any Bible fact you ever gave me. My parents have been together for like almost 30 years now. They never fought, not a lot, you know. I'm pretty my life was pretty much your ideal, what you would think a family should be. Um, I moved to Georgia when I was 8, which was hard for me because I was kind of antisocial, so it was kind of a rough upbringing in that way. But, I eventually did adapt after a while, but it was hard at first. I guess you could say, like, once I got involved in the church, that was kind of like my home, like where I felt comfortable, because it was what I knew was the Bible, and, I could relate to adults, and I got to work with kids, but I guess the relationship part of Christianity never really clicked for me. I just knew the facts, but not really the whole, relationship with God. I mean, I accepted Christ when I was 5, but I don't even really remember the whole situation. I remember it not being that big of a deal, at least not to me. And I mean, that's pretty much what I did, and that's pretty much the face I held on for my entire life. When I was probably about, I don't know, getting into like middle school, high school, I started like developing different kind of groups of friends. Decent people, but my life was so boring. I felt my life was too perfect. My testimony was the boring testimony that, you know, every Christian kid, has, or every pastor's kid has, and I didn't want that. And I just wanted my life to be more interesting and more exciting. So, about probably my senior year of high school, I got involved with a guy over the internet, and he was a little older than me. So I didn't tell anybody about him because I was afraid that it would like ruin my image, my parents' image, my family image. Because my parents were very high up in the church, very well respected. My brothers were devout Christians. It all just seemed to this perfect world. Like I was on this pedestal and I was being judged for every little thing I did, and it drove me crazy. Pretty much what it did, to the brink of insanity. So I found a guy who I felt like I could be myself with, or so I thought, and so I just kind of depended on him for everything, for my support, for my problems, and pretty much that. And it grew, it grew stronger and stronger, and then my desire to get away from where I was just grew stronger and stronger. And so finally, my senior year, by the end of it, a lot of events occurred, and I couldn't take the pressure anymore. I was in so much pain, just emotionally and mentally. I had to get away. And the only way I thought I could get away was to run. So I ran, literally. I graduated because I wanted to get my degree. And the day of my brother's birthday, I went to my friend's house that night. I packed up all my stuff for weeks beforehand, put it all in my car that night, and went to my friend's house, spent the night there, and then the next day I drove down to the airport, picked up my boyfriend, and I drove, and I moved to Texas. Didn't tell anybody, just took off. That was probably the longest drive of my life, both, actually for time, and I cried most of it, just knowing that I might never get to see my parents and my friends ever again. The day after I actually got to Texas, my dad, Pastor Kevin, you and Kim all showed up. The police showed up first and kind of freaked my boyfriend out a little bit, and you guys had found me, but you didn't want to take me home. I mean, you did, but nobody forced me to do anything I didn't want to do. You just want to keep open communication and just let me know I had my independence, and so that's what it was. And I can't imagine the pain my dad must have felt, and, to this day, I can't even imagine what he had to feel like driving away that day and leaving me there. So for 3 months, I lived in Texas. It was fun at first, like anything that's new, it was exciting. But then, I wanted to go to school. I wanted to travel, and that was stuff that, I couldn't do. I couldn't find a job. The school was too expensive, and just every door was closing. Those dreams that I had were still there, but, everything else, the means was gone. But I was like, I'll fight through this. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to have to give up my independence. Well, my boyfriend really got these crummy jobs, had no money, and literally I was buying groceries for like, $5 for the week's worth of groceries. It was horrible. Finally, I came to my senses and I was like, I need to do something with my life. So I called my mom, talked to her, and she's like, you can come home, if you want to, it's up to you. And so I said, okay, for a time being, I'll go home. And job opened up, school opened up. And so in end of August, beginning of September, I went home. And my boyfriend was going to come live with me and everything like that, but that ended up not working out because he ended up cheating on me after I came home, which my world shattered after that. It was very, very hard, but I fought through it, you know. I became even more driven than I was before. I didn't really have anything to do with God at that point. Didn't go to church, didn't pursue anything, had a couple boyfriends, but nothing serious, you know. I had a one-track mind that I was going to succeed, and I was going to do all this stuff, and I was going to get it done, like, as fast as I could. So that's what I did, and just completed years worth of school in 7 months, and it was hard, but, you know, there was nothing stopping me. So I got accepted to a university. You know, I was so excited to get into the education program, this, that, and the other. And then in September, I ended up going to the beach with a random guy just for like a weekend trip. And like I said, you know, everyone had been telling me about God and like, you know, he's waiting for you, and I just kind of ignored it, and I was like, whatever, I don't want anything to do with God. But, you know, he'd been knocking at my heart for a while, you know, and that trip, I was sitting on the beach one night, and like the wind was blowing, the waves were crashing, it was crazy, so, you know, storm, and I'm like, God, where are you? And then like at that moment the wind stopped, the waves calmed down, the moon came out, like the clouds parted, and God was like, I was here, I've been here the whole time, you just turned your back on me. And like I just was like, whoa, you know. And it's true, he was always there, I just chose to ignore him, you know. You can't really ignore God, you know. Like, he'll do whatever he can to take his kids home, and that's what he did for me. So, I mean, it's been hard since then, you know, like, it's hard to finally break a routine, break your lifestyle into something else. That's totally different, but, you know, I fought for a relationship, I fought to change my lifestyle, you know, because without him, I wouldn't be where I am now. I never would have come out of that, you know. It took me 3 months to actually come home. It took me a year to come home spiritually. But, you know, since I've been home, it's been great, you know. I have great relationships, I have people keeping me accountable, you know, and it's just been so exciting, you know. And every day it's a struggle, but it's also exciting knowing what God is going to be, you know, moving in lives. But, you know, there's always hope, no matter what, no matter where you are, whether you've, you know, run away and you're out, or you want to run away, or you've come home and you don't know what to do. There's hope, you know. You just got to turn around and just know that God is sitting right there, and you're going to bump into him eventually, you know. He'll show himself to you. You gotta look for him and pursue him. So there's always hope.